The Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, says he does not own or operate any business directly or by proxy anywhere except for a local mini-agric venture. In a statement issued on his social media platform X, formerly Twitter, Kyari clarified that he does not own a blending plant in Malta or know any of his colleagues doing so, and that no blending plant in Malta or any part of the world influences NNPC's business operations. The GCEO says sanctions would apply to any NNPC employee who is established to be involved in such, while urging individuals familiar with such matters to make such information available to security agencies in view of its grave implications for national energy security. This was in reaction to a claim made by the president of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, alleging that some personnel of NNPC Limited, oil traders and terminals have opened a blending plant in Malta from where they import products into Nigeria. All right. I didn't think that the GCEO would take that line low, and he's come out now with, to refute the allegations that he or as key personnel, is what was said, of an NPCL operated blending plant in Malta. Your take on the story?
So a part of me will have said, let's investigate further. Because in the rage of this anger, a lot of things were revealed. And in fact, if you check the social media, but I like to discountenance what the social media say most of the time, a lot of words are flying around. But truth is, I just want to say this blanketly. At some point, people need to think more about their own country than any other place and any other profit. The Nigeria we love so dearly, if we want to grow it, we have to be nationalistic in our thinking, even with our business dealings. I'm happy the boss of the NNPCL has refuted it, and he said it doesn't happen. That's why I say a part of me would say, let's investigate further. But another part of me will say, let's just allow sleeping dogs lie. All of this happened in the middle of crossfire. What we want is, we don't want the case of a 20 billion refinery to now be a spectacle in Nigeria. They had called both parties. We had spoken. We had said they should go and settle this matter internally. It's not the time to gloat over what was said and what was not said. Let's be careful. Let's be nationalist in nature here. The most important thing in going forward is, how can we ensure that there's a favorable outcome for Dangote refinery and many other stakeholders in this impasse. And most importantly, there's a favorable outcome for Nigeria. It's not today we've constantly heard about people having plants here and there in other parts of the world at the expense of Nigeria. And that's why I say, collectively, I would like to say, for those that think of profit more than their country, they should not forget that no matter how much bank accounts they have in Switzerland, they will still be buried in their village. And at least let's make this country good. Let's sheathe our swords and ensure that we do everything to bring balance back to the system. I'll not say further than that.
All right, sheathe our swords. Dr. Bati?
Okay, well, to the extent that this is a development story, I think that it's very important, and it's a good development in that regard, that the CEO, GMD CEO of NNPC Limited has come out to debunk this. This original allegation was made by Alhaji Aliko Dangote, that certain persons who are associated with the NNPC Limited have a blending plant in Malta, and that these importers are the ones who do not want, the Dangote refinery to function. The popular assumption is that, look, if NNPC Limited is mentioned, then of course that the GMD CEO of NNPC Limited should know about it. And I think the clarification is very important. He says he does not own anything, blending plant or milling plant or, whatever it is. in any part of the world, and that is committed to his work. The second point also is that there is something circulating, in the last 24 hours on social media, identifying the owners of the so-called blending plant in Malta. I hope that expeditiously, those persons whose names have also been categorically mentioned in whatever is circulating, across social media, will also come forward and tell us that they know nothing about this. The only positive side of it is that in the interest of the ordinary man, a lot is being reviewed. However, I think more important is the story on the front page of this day newspaper today, and the photograph, one photograph that says it all. It says, demarketed at home, sought after abroad. The same Alhaji Aliko Dangote that some people are demarketing in Nigeria is being sought after in Gabon by President Brice Nguema, who is inviting him to come and contribute to the economic growth of Gabon. So Nigeria doesn't make use of what it has. We have a reputation for exporting what we cannot use at home. I hope we will not reach a situation whereby Aliko Dangote will be exported to be helping economic growth in other countries, even if he runs a global conglomerate, because he's despised at home. That's one morality of it. The second story that this day has on its front page is also instructive, that there is a groundswell of support for Alhaji Aliko Dangote. Nasima is supporting him. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has thrown its weight behind him. Akinwumi Adesina, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank, has thrown his weight behind them. Mr. Peter Obi, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Femi Otedola has also written a piece saying that, look, in other countries of the world, what you do is you encourage your visionaries. You encourage your local investors. And Otedola, in his own case, cited the example of the United States, where United States was built on the back of the vision of persons like Rockefeller, Carnegie, Mellon, and people who had the vision. Henry Ford, he cited many examples. But here in Nigeria, you have a man like Aliko Dangote, who has the largest single train refinery in the world, who is the largest manufacturer of cement in the world, who is a big investor in the economy, who is a major employer of labor. I don't know whether some of us here have people in Dangote group, where, directly or indirectly, every life is touched, more or less, within the Nigerian environment. And that is a man called Engineer Farouk Ahmed is trying to demarcate. The House of Reps, there was a motion moved by one of the members, Yahweh, from Edo State. He has called in a motion of national urgent importance that Farouk Ahmed should be suspended while the House of Representatives investigates the matter. But I think it's a very good development also that President Tinubu has waded into the matter. I assumed that he was the one who gave the instruction that the Minister of State for Petroleum, Anakin Lokobiri, who is his deputy, should call a meeting so that this matter can be resolved. Because President Tinubu cannot allow the situation that we have on our hands to fester. As Waziri Adamawa said, it's not good for economic stability, it's not good for the markets, it will not encourage foreign investors. If you despise your own man, then what would, they say, what is that saying? If gold rust, what will copper do?
Yeah.
Right, well, yeah, in his words, he had mentioned that we're scaring investors away. But let me start with the first instance with regards to Mr. Mele Kyari saying that he owns categorically saying that he owns no blending plant, in Malta. I don't think his name was specifically mentioned in that quote by Alhaji Aliko Dangote. However, they say key personnel in NNPCL owned blending plant. I think beyond extricating himself, I mean, which is important because he would need to assure Nigerians that as the head of that organization, he's not doing anything that would sabotage the running of that, of NNPC and of course its effect on Nigerians. But I think beyond that, when such an allegation is made by a person such as Alhaji Aliko Dangote, who should know about things and the inner workings of the oil and gas industry in Nigeria, then it should be taken, very seriously. I don't think it should be something that should just be refuted by the GCEO. Instead, he should institute an investigation and ask for names. And he did say that anyone who has information about people or individuals who had blending plants in Malta should come forward so that action can be taken. That's the right step to take. I don't think we should bury this. I believe that situations like this or when issues like this come up, it's an opportunity for Nigerians to know the truth. What is really happening and what has been covered for so long. With the hope, not just for us to know and sensationalize it and talk about it and spread names, is that true or untrue, an opportunity for us to begin to sanitize this, what has been described as murky or shrouded in secrecy industry, and which cabal is said to almost be more cabalistic than the cabal of, the drug cabal. This gives Nigerians a prime opportunity to delve deeper and to investigate as to who are the people really ruining or sabotaging Nigeria's oil and gas industry, willing to, speak and not make it work so that their own personal interest will continue to work. So while, yes, he has come out clearly to say his hands are clean, it has nothing to do with any blending plant in Malta, he should see it as an opportunity to investigate deeper. If they don't find anything, fine. But if they do find something, then those people ought to be brought to book. Let's not sweep it away. These are strong allegations made very authoritatively by a man who should know about the workings of the oil and gas industry. Now, coming over, and I'll go to the next story very quickly, but very quick, I'll just say one or two words about the support for Alhaji Aliko Dangote from different quarters. As I've said a number of times, this is beyond the Dangote industry. This is about Nigeria, Nigerians who choose to invest in Nigeria, and people who want to run businesses, whether big businesses or small-scale businesses. And the fact that we talk about providing an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and the impact of building or investing in the private sector in Nigeria, especially to the GDP of the economy. Look at the jobs that they provide, look at the amount of money they pay in taxes. And so if this isn't properly handled, it would give an indication as to the direction that this administration is taking with regards to protecting local interests and, very importantly, attracting foreign investors. There's no point traveling all around the world telling people that Nigeria is the investors' destination if we are doing everything opposite to that. And that's why I can understand the reason why people are calling for even a suspension or even at least calling him to order the head of the NMDPRA, who in the first instance made this blow out of proportion. This is still an unfolding story. We'll definitely bring you updates as it comes up. Let's move on to our next story. President Bola Tinubu has urged young protesters to cancel their planned demonstrations, assuring them that the government is actively addressing their concerns. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, conveyed this message at a meeting with the President at the State House. He emphasized that President Tinubu takes the grievances of the youth seriously. Idris highlighted the government's recent actions, such as the swift approval of a new national minimum wage by the National Assembly, as proof of the president's commitment to improving the country's future. This appeal comes amid growing public discontent and calls for nationwide protests next month in response to economic hardship and policy decisions.
We also discussed the issue of the country generally, and Mr. President has asked me to, again, inform Nigerians that he listens to them, especially the young people that are trying to protest. Mr. President is listening to them. He takes what they say seriously and is working assiduously to ensure that this country is good, not just for today, but also for the future. The issue of the planned protest, Mr. President does not see any need for that. He's asked them to shelve that plan. He's asked them to await government's response to all their pleas. He has listened to them, like I said, and a lot is happening. Only today, the National Assembly has expeditiously passed the new national minimum wage. You can see how the president is working. It was transmitted only yesterday. Today it has been passed. A lot of other interventions that the president has also put in place are also going to be looked at expeditiously in the interest of Nigeria. So there's no need for strike. The young people out there should listen to the president and allow the president more time to see to the realization of all the goodies he has for them.
Okay, yesterday we had this conversation, Rufai, in terms of, we said that the president should come out and speak to the people, and that especially his handlers, his spokespersons should be more, their language should change. Yeah. And we see this happening. Your take on the story?
I think they're not ready. President Tinubu, with due respect, sir, you are not ready. If you don't want this strike, you know what to do to the people or the protests. Engage them. Tell your citizens, see, people used to say this thing, you go explain tire. As a leader, you must explain tire. The people did not vote for information minister or Mr. Bayo Ononuga that is abusing everybody, and now Mr. Peter Obi has instituted a suit against him. He said if he doesn't apologize in 72 hours, he will sue him. Maybe Mr. Peter Obi was even listening to the show. You must engage. At first, you don't engage your people. You came, you don't engage. Since President Tinubu has been president, how many interviews have you seen? Over a year. How many sit-downs? You don't engage your people. We don't know your mind. You come, you give recorded statements, speeches, well choreographed. That's not what the people want. They want engagement. They want to hear you, that you feel them. I put an option earlier on yesterday. I said President Tinubu can do a syndicated Twitter spaces that's syndicated across every platform. Engage the young people. Have conversations with them. It's not by sending security agents everywhere to say, oh, don't remember what happened in NSAS. And for security agents reminding us what happened in NSAS, hell yeah, we also remind you of what 2012. Why was there no violence? There was no chaos now. You shut the country down for 2 weeks. There was no chaos. So stop using NSAS as a benchmark. We had protests in this country in 2012. Nothing happened. So protests can actually be peaceful. Occupy Nigeria was peaceful, except for one killing of Demola Yaya Baton. In fact, people had carnival-like atmosphere at the Ganifa Park in Ojota. So stop bringing reminders of NSAS. Truth has to be told. A president needs to engage his people. And it's not these handlers that will keep speaking. President Tinubu, you still have the time now to do it. You still have the time now to do it. Don't let your advisors mislead you by saying, no, don't worry, we'll handle it. They are never in your best interest. Your advisors are in their own best interest. They think about themselves. You are just a tool to make their dreams work.
Okay, very quickly. I think a number of principles need to be stated. The first is that the right to protest is constitutional. Nobody is opposing the right to protest. And I think that the Nigerian government should not oppose the right to protest. What the Nigerian government can oppose is the resolve to impose chaos on the state. People going about on Twitter saying Tinubu must go, Nigeria must collapse. Now, that's not protest. That is bordering on the grounds of an attempt to mobilize anarchy. Now, the protest, as proposed, is supposed to take place from August 1 to August 10. And they have called it Days of Rage. There is no responsible government that will sit down, fold its arms, and allow people to say they are going to impose rage on the country. And we must know, we must all realize that the state has a responsibility to prevent chaos, to prevent anarchy. Whoever is in power, whether it's Tinubu or is anybody else, there's a state, qua state, that has a responsibility to make sure that this space called Nigeria remains at peace. Number two is the fact that we should understand the contemporary context. The people who have been referring to, in 2012, there was a protest in Ojota. In 2014, President Tinubu said this. All of that was not in the context of violence. They were giving people designer T-shirts. They were preparing pepper soup for people
They went to at the beginning.
At Ojota Motor Park. Okay, that was what happened at that time. NSAS came later. Okay, NSAS had its own contradictions, its own discontents that have remained unresolved. But the contemporary context that I'm talking about is in the context of the Kenya riots, which led to the death of 50 people. Now, what happened in Kenya has caused another commotion in Uganda. In Uganda, they have a Stop Corruption protest. Yes, they have a leader, Museveni, who has been in power for 40 years. And Museveni told them, well, I'm not saying you should not protest, but go ahead and protest. But if you cause violence, we will respond appropriately. Now, you can say Museveni is, a dictator. But all of this, again, has to be seen in an historical context. You remember 2011 Arab Spring. It started in Tunisia. The thing spread throughout, the whole of the Middle East, leading to regime change and all of that. So the fear of the establishment, is understandable in that regard. However, the point must be properly made that if it is peaceful protest about whatever, people are saying being power all over Nigeria. People are saying, look, there's too much hardship. Yesterday we were told MBS jacked up, told us that interest rate or inflation rate has gone up. Monetary Policy Committee has increased interest rate. Okay, all of that speak to the hardship in the country. What we can say is that President Tinubu should listen to the people, address their grievances, particularly about hunger. But nothing in the Constitution of Nigeria gives anybody to preach violence. And the state has a responsibility to protect itself and make sure that violent people do not hijack the state. Everything else beyond that is politics.
All right, yes. Usually the challenges with protests is when they are hijacked by unscrupulous elements and they make it violent. If you look at and study the previous protests, they were done by the people who spearheaded it, were done peacefully. In fact, like you mentioned, Rufai, after a while, they would provide a community such that people even begin to make friends, talk, because everybody is, or most of them, are united by one common goal to see a better Nigeria. So if we're looking at violence, what should happen should be that the security agency should use the intelligence provided, especially as the UN has also raised the alarm that some elements might want to hijack. The key word is hijack these peaceful protests and make them violent and provide security for Nigerians who have a right, guaranteed by the Constitution, to protest. So that's what should happen. They should use the intelligence to protect the Nigerian people, not just to protect the government. You are there to protect the people, not just the government. You are there to protect Nigerians' lives and properties. So if you hear that people want to hijack a peaceful protest because people are unhappy what is going on in the nation, then you should use the intelligence to protect, send more people to protect the people. That's what the Nigerian security agencies should be doing. So if there's any violence that happens, the onus should be on the Nigerian security agencies who did not use intelligence to do what they ought to be doing. But aside from that, I said it yesterday and I maintain that stance, that what this administration would want to do is to avoid protest, because we have seen the effect of this. No president, no leader wants to see the loss of lives of his citizens. And so we called for engagement, dialogue with the people, not just from us, from different quarters as well. A number of people have said, NLC said so, NAN said so, open up the dialogue communications. I want to say the first step has been done. I don't think it's enough in terms of the Minister for Information. He's talked about, and now they're highlighting and talking about interventions. This is what we said. Communication is important. You cannot say we're doing, but no one sees or feels the impact of what you're doing. So the fact that he's come out to now detail the intervention of this administration to alleviate the sufferings of Nigeria is commendable, but not enough. He talked about the swift passage of the national minimum wage. Good. He talked about distribution of rice. Don't forget, only 24,000 bags of rice went to 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. And we talked about it yesterday, how it will just come up to perhaps a handful of rice or just a small. It's insufficient. So whilst you're doing that, leading up to the 1st of August, rather than posing threats and getting people to come out and say, oh, this is a... Bring out people who will do things. Let Nigerians feel the effect and see that you're serious about listening to the people. Hold conversations. Let us see the president. We want to see the leader. Yes, he cannot be speaking all the time, but once in a while, hold a youth conversation. Call a few key youth leaders, have conversations with them, and highlight or detail the plans and follow up with action. So many things to be said, but I'm hopeful that in the course of today's show, we'll be able to break it down a bit more. I'll reiterate. No one wants protest because of what could happen in terms of it being hijacked. However, the president and the leadership must sit up to demonstrate to Nigerians that they are serious about dealing with the issues. Move on to our next story. The Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, AEDC, has officially signed a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with Transfarm Power yesterday to implement a groundbreaking 50-megawatt embedded power generation project for the Idu Commercial Hub in Abuja. The MOU was executed by AEDC MD CEO, Engineer Chijoke Okonkenye, the MD CEO, Transfarm Power Limited, Engineer Vincent Ozode, during the Summit on Accelerated Scale-Up of Renewable and Distributed Energy Resources in Nigeria, hosted by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. With this, AEDC will fulfill 82% of NERC's requirements for embedded power generation, ensuring a reliable and consistent power supply for the Idu cluster. It marks a pivotal advancement in AEDC's transformation agenda, allowing the company to generate its own electricity and reduce reliance on the national grid. By diversifying its energy sources, AEDC is committed to providing stable and dependable electricity for all stakeholders involved. In addition, the partnership enables Transfarm, a leading power generating company and subsidiary of Nigeria's largest listed conglomerate, Transcorp Group, to diversify its mode of generation, providing on-grid and embedded generation to optimize its current generating capacity and serve a wider cluster.